So the thing is, the original short stories and novels by Ian Fleming aren't really very funny at all. There are very few elements of comedy aside from the names of the various Bond girls. And this leads to the following question. Why did they choose to put so much comedy in the films? I think partly it's to do with wanting to lighten the mood and get away from the darker tone of the Fleming material and make these stories more light-hearted and family-friendly so that they could appeal to a broader cinema audience. But the comedy in the James Bond films isn't really there from the start, so it sort of develops over time, especially across the first 3 films. So the first film back in 1962, Dr. No, hardly had any comedy at all. But it did include this scene between Bond and Moneypenny that had quite a few comedic elements.
You never take me to dinner looking like this, James. You never take me to dinner, period.
I would, you know. Only Anne would have me court-martialed for illegal use of government property.
Dr. No also includes a topical joke that at the time was probably quite funny. But now hardly anyone is going to get this joke unless they look it up on the internet. Now this painting had been stolen in 1961, which of course was only 1 year before Dr. No came out, which is something that most of the audience would have understood at the time because it was in the newspapers. But overall, Dr. No is a pretty serious film. But the fact that this film was more serious didn't really hurt it very much. It was still a fun and exciting spy film. But then in the second film, From Russia with Love, they did introduce a few more elements of comedy. The scene that really stands out in this regard is the conversation between Bond and Tanya about the cipher device. And this is a very good example of character-based comedy. And the scene is much funnier because by this stage we understand the character dynamics between Bond, M and Moneypenny.
Dushka, tell me the truth. Am I as exciting as all those Western girls?
Oh, once when I was with Anne in Tokyo, we had an interesting experience.
Thank you, Miss Moneypenny. That's all.
But despite the fact that From Russia with Love included this type of scene, the earlier scene in the film between Bond and Q is completely devoid of comedy.
An ordinary black leather case with 20 rounds of ammunition here and here. Now, if you take the top off, you'll find the ammunition inside.
So Connery and Llewellyn play this scene completely straight. There's no elements of comedy at all. And this is a big difference between From Russia with Love and Goldfinger. So the man that was responsible for introducing more comedy into the franchise is the director of the third film, and that's Guy Hamilton.
It seemed to me that if we could do the pre-credit sequence, which is a wonderful piece of nonsense, I mean, where you can go swimming with a seagull on top of your head and you can unzip your suit and have a white tuxedo underneath. If that makes you laugh, let's all now, after the credit titles, go for a great big ride and have fun.
So Goldfinger includes a lot more comedy. First of all, you got the same sort of relationship between Bond and Moneypenny that you saw in the first film.
That's the flimsiest excuse you've ever given me. Oh, well, some girls have all the luck. Who is she, James?
She is me, Miss Moneypenny. And kindly omit the customary byplay with 007.
But Guy Hamilton also introduced a comical dynamic between Bond and Q, which is something that was completely absent in the previous film.
At the rehearsals, I was working at a desk and Bond comes in and I got up to greet him. And Guy said, no, you don't take any notice of this man, you don't like him. And I thought, well, but this is Bond, this is James Bond, and I'm just an ordinary civil servant. I must admire him like everybody else does. He says, no, of course you don't. He doesn't treat your gadgets with any respect at all.
Audio-visual, range 150 miles.
Ingenious and useful too. Allow a man to stop off for a quick one en route.
But this film also includes witty one-liners,
Shocking.
comically absurd elements like old ladies with machine guns, sexual innuendo.
Washington. At the White House this afternoon, the president said he was entirely satisfied.
That makes two of us.
You've also got an element of screwball comedy, insofar as it's a reversal of typical gender roles, with Pussy Galore sometimes getting the better of Bond.
Isn't it customary to grant a condemned man his last request?
You've asked for this.
The jokes were still coming thick and fast right up until the end.
What kept you?
Yeah, so I think we're in a position now to say something about the movement across the first three films. So the first film, Dr. No, hardly has any comedy at all. Then From Russia with Love introduces a bit more comedy, but the big change in terms of the Connery Bonds comes in the form of Goldfinger. Then there ain't really so much to say about the next two films, because Thunderball and You Only Live Twice basically maintain the same sort of approach as Goldfinger. So in my opinion, I think there are actually 6 phases of comedy in the Bond franchise. Phase 1 is the movement that we can see across the first 3 films. But now it's time to move on to Phase 2.